Hello, everyone. You are listening to She Leads with Carly, and in this show, we talk to the absolute best, brightest, and yes, badass leaders. I'm your host, Carly Malatsky. Hello, everyone. I'm incredibly excited to welcome today's guest, Scarlett Leung. Scarlett is a visionary brand builder whose work sits at the intersection of consumer insight, culture, and product innovation. She is the co-founder and chief brand officer of Pretty Tasty, a collagen-infused iced tea brand. Before becoming a founder, Scarlett's early career spans across many different industries, including fashion and retail, e-commerce, health and wellness, and even some early accounting and consulting as well. She held executive roles at All Saints and L'Oreal and was also the chief customer officer at Fresh Direct, which at the time was one of the largest grocers in the U.S. Scarlett received her bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Waterloo in accounting and her MBA from MIT. Scarlett, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
I'm so excited to do this with you.
I am so excited. Okay, so Scarlett, what I love to do and what I often do with every episode is I actually want to learn about 5-year-old Scarlett, maybe 5 to 10-year-old Scarlett. What type of kid were you? Tell me a little bit about growing up.
Well, 5 to 10-year-old Scarlett was a mini adult. My sister would say that I was her surrogate mother. My parents really wanted a son. So my sister is 5 years younger than me. The whole time when they were going to the doctor and getting an ultrasound, they were like, you're going to have a son. And I remember the night before she was born, my grandmother's like, last chance, make a wish. And I was like, don't worry. I was like, I'm going to manifest the sister that I want. Don't worry about it. Next day, my parents were so surprised. They're like, so we had a girl. My sister's called Kimberly. I named her after like the prima donna of Sleeping Beauty because I was like, she is so beautiful. And my parents were like, yeah, of course, because they were like, this is never going to happen. So like, whatever you want. And then they had her. So then they were like, well, you asked for her, so she's your responsibility now. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I asked for it. I should take care of her. And I also always knew that I wanted to be a mom. And I was like, in my little head, I was like, this is great. I get like practical experience on how to raise a child. Like in advance, I can like practice.
Oh my God. And you were around 5 to 10 years old.
Yeah, I was like 4.5, 5. Yeah. And I know this is like not normal. It's like more funny because my sister's been like recounting this to me now that we're older. So that was me. I had a like little sister child who I raised, and my sister would be like, I would come home, you'd have a schedule on the whiteboard being like, this is what you need to do. This is time for homework. This is your scheduled nap. I've tried to move it around the cartoons that you like. Like I was very hands-on. Like even her birthday parties, I just asked my mom for a budget. Even my sister's like my 3-year-old birthday, I was like 7. I like had like a full run of show. I would have like a music like playlist. I'd have like hors d'oeuvres, like deviled eggs. It's really weird. Like I learned it from the cookbook, and I was like, oh yeah, this is really important for any successful party.
Oh my goodness. Scarlett, I know everything I need to know about you. Just from that story, we're done. That is incredible.
And I'd recruit volunteers. It was like a thing from my class. Like people would ask to volunteer at my sister's birthday party, and I'd like select volunteers. And, I'd have all the games set up. I'd obviously do the loot bag. I did everything.
I love how you accepted it as normal for your parents to be like, hey, you asked for this. Like, this is now your responsibility. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I did. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So from my understanding, when we talked earlier, right, your dad was an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur. So you saw that side. So tell me a little bit about what you were exposed to at that age.
Yeah. So I was born in Toronto. I grew up between Toronto and Hong Kong. My family's originally from Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a very entrepreneurial city. Both sides of my grandfathers were both big entrepreneurs. Funny enough, competitors in the metals, like tin can printing space. And then everyone on my dad's side of family is an entrepreneur, including my dad. So like even my dad's like first company, it was capital from my grandfather. He was like, you and your brothers are starting a company, like figure it out. And he was really successful. it was a tool and die company. And then like everyone else, they just like continued to, start new businesses, and they're mainly in garment manufacturing. But it's interesting because, sometimes they work together in companies, sometimes they don't. But like everything around the dinner table, like on Sunday, was about business. And business always came first. So it was sort of like, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. My mom hated the whole entrepreneur thing. And it's because, like, for me, it felt like it took over their lives. Like, that's all that mattered. Like, business first, almost like family time second, because we're out here wheeling and dealing. And that's all they thought about.
Your mom's opinion about it, did it come from the same perspective of like it's all too consuming, or is it more of the stability element? Like why was she so averse to that?
Yeah, I think it's the all-consuming part. And I think she had like friends who don't come from entrepreneurial families who saw that they're like, oh, this is a 9-to-5 job. Like it felt very like cushy. And they're like, they're also successful. Like you don't need to be an entrepreneur.
It was almost like she saw there's this world in which you can have balance between work and family, and what you guys were living in was probably not balance, where you were bringing it to the dinner table, all of that. Okay, and so as you kind of grew up, clearly you had, not to throw this on you, but it seems like you had that type A, older sister mentality, right? And so you seem like you embodied that. I'm guessing you were a good student. Were you good in school or no?
Yeah, I was top of my class.
Okay.
My dad would be like, oh, you got 98%? I was like, yeah, I was the best. And he was like, maybe you should sit and think about where that other 2% went. That very, very stereotypical Asian parents.
Yeah. And then you decided to go to University of Waterloo, obviously a very, very incredible university. Walk me through your mindset of studying accounting. How did that come about?
I did want to be an accountant. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. And my parents were like, you're too kind. They're like, sometimes you have to defend clients that like, or do things that might not be so black and white. And they're like, you would not be able to handle that if you felt like you helped a bad person. So they're like, this is terrible for you. Do accounting. It's like an honorable professional job, the Asian parents, it's like you're a doctor, you're an accountant, like engineer, architect, like those are like the real jobs to them. And it's an office job. They're like, it's easy. And I don't know where my mom also did accounting for a little bit when she was younger. And she worked for Price Waterhouse. And I don't know what kind of schedule she had, but she was like, oh, it's so cushy. She's like, you get your summers off. Like I rolled up to work at 10, left early. She's like, it'll be great. Obviously, that was not true. When I worked at Deloitte, I was like working until 2 a.m. every single night and like 6 days a week. She was probably one of those nightmare, interns that she thought it was easy, but everyone else around her was probably working
like,
a lot.
I'm cruising. This is simple.
I was like, where did you get that from?
And what did you want to be when you grew up? What were you striving towards if you had that in your mind?
I didn't actually know. I think I was just kind of confused. Like, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because I had that whole justice aspect. And then my parents were like, no, that's not for you. And then accounting, they just told me to do it. And I guess it was practical. And I got into the program. So I went and did it. But I've never, really had this is what I want to be when I grow up, or this is my 5-year plan. And so I've always loved food. And even while I was working at Deloitte and working those 100 hours, I was going to chef school on the weekend. And that was insane. I literally got yelled at by my chef, like Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay style, every weekend. And after a year, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is very stressful. So I think, if you look at my career, it's been a lot of like exploration and opportunities coming to me where if it's fun, if I'm going to learn something, then I'm going to do it. But it's never been this is a planned next step for me.
Yeah. Okay. So before we even get into all of those opportunities that came your way, what advice do you have for those who are in that position where you're often told what you should do, right? We're like put on this path of life, and unless you're just kind of hit in the head, then you kind of get off the path and discover, oh, I could do this, I could do this. But if anything, we're taught to go to college, to get a job, to start a family. Like you're told what to do. And given your own experience navigating accounting and then Deloitte, would you do anything differently? Or what advice would you share with someone who's navigating that, the passion versus security, all of that?
I think obviously having that degree and Deloitte was amazing because I always have a fallback. Like I know that when I left, all the partners like, you have a job forever with us. And having a financial background is so important to running a business or doing anything really. So I think that basic foundation was great. I think that what I would tell people is that don't let that box you in and try as many things as you want. I think that there's this kind of idea that I need to set, like, I don't know, people love those, like, what's your 5-year goal? What's your 10-year goal? If you don't set it, you don't get there. I think just explore. And, like, maybe the goal doesn't have to be so fixed and, like, I don't know, like 5 years, I make this amount of money and I'm at this level of a company and I have this. But I think you need to really be open. And that idea of reaching certain milestones at certain ages, like, it's going to change as you learn more about yourself. So it doesn't really apply for me. And even when I have, for my own companies, I love having a really open door policy for everyone who works for me. I let everyone, attend meetings cross-functionally just, to help them understand the business. Because I think it's really important. Like, I hate it when you're like, oh, because I'm in marketing, I don't need to understand supply chain, or I'm in finance, so I don't need to understand what marketing does. Everything works together. And if you don't understand what other sides of the business are doing, you can't actually have an effective holistic plan. Because of that exposure, I've had people who work for me realize that they are interested in other parts of the business more. And it might not be what they studied in school, but the best way to learn is to do it. And I've moved people around in different roles or helped them find new roles that help them explore something new.
I love that. I think on like the receiving end as like an employee, I feel like that is such a unique, cool opportunity to almost force you, or not force you, but enables you to see a whole different world because it's so easy to get boxed in, like you said. Were you exposed to that personally, or where did that value come into it for you?
I think it's because I have had all these crazy opportunities in different areas of different businesses in different industries. And I realize how much of these skills are really your ability to learn quickly, and curiosity is really all you need, and sort of a can-do attitude to excel in anything. So I really want to give that same opportunity to other people because it's been so fulfilling.
I love it. Okay, give me a rundown-esque of your career, right? And the reason why I'm asking you rather than going individually into it is because you bring such a unique wealth of industries, like I said in the intro, where you go from fashion to at All Saints to a grocery store at Fresh Direct. So kind of walk me through your trail, if you will, and then we can kind of dive into it.
Yeah. So like you said, I started my career at Deloitte. I'm, a chartered accountant, CPA by training. Early on, I think that was such a great training ground for me. I was in the telecom, media, and technology group, but I also had retail clients. I started working there as an intern in college. So when I graduated, I was kind of senior already, and I had like one of the biggest teams for a largest public telecom company in Canada. I was leading teams of like 10 plus people at 23. Virgin was one of my clients. I got exposed to people like Richard Branson. I went to VFest with him. He knew me. He was a client. And so that really helped me build my confidence and leadership early on.
And by the way, at that moment, right, you said you're 23, leading teams. In your mind, did you recognize at the time that this is actually pretty unique and that,
No.
Okay, so you thought like this was just normal. This
I
was
thought it
early
was
career.
normal.
This is what people do. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. But I think it's because of the way that my school was and the training program, and everyone started earlier than everyone else. I had peers who maybe their teams weren't as large as mine, but like we were sort of similar levels. And the way that I really appreciate as an A-type person, Deloitte does like an annual review and they rank everyone on their ability and everyone has input. So I knew where my rank was every year and I knew it was at the top, and that just like helped me.
You welcome feedback, ranking,
Yeah.
public rank, all of that. Like that fueled you. No, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm the exact same. That would fuel me. Okay, that's awesome. What came unnaturally to you at this time when you were leading other people? Was there anything that you had to learn or lean on others or at least struggled with?
As much as I love the ranking, I think the competition was really fierce. And I really hated that because I'm a community builder and I like working with people. Luckily, the person who I went head to head every year was like my best friend. So like that was fine because like we were very happy for each other. But there are definitely people who tried to sabotage me and like did things that was very unnatural and very uncomfortable for me.
In my mind, what came to mind when you said that was, I think of like a sports team where at the end of the day you're a team and there is like a very thin line, but it's such an important line to draw of being a team, working together to a similar mission. But at the end of the day, you do have someone playing in your position. So you are competing with them, but like in a very healthy way, as long as you guys understand like this is for the greater mission and goal. But it seems like maybe that line wasn't drawn so effectively necessarily.
I think it's also hard because like the higher you rank, the better clients you get, and salaries are based on where you rank, right? So then as you're like top, cumulatively, you just get much farther ahead.
So take me through then, you end up working, I guess, spinning out of Deloitte because L'Oreal was a client of yours.
No, I was in Toronto and then my parents were in Hong Kong. And so my mom really wanted me to move back to Hong Kong. And I was back for vacation. She's like, just like humor me. She's like, just go see a headhunter, see what happens. And I got recruited to go work for Philip Morris in their internal consulting group. I obviously didn't want to be in tobacco, but it was the most prestigious group you could get into a multinational. Like if you got into that group, like other multinational corporations come knocking at your door. And, I love that they were like, we couldn't find someone for 6 months to fill it. You'd have an amazing sense account. You'd get to travel. You'd be in Australia for most of the year, which is how I ended up living in Melbourne and travel to, report to Switzerland, like all this stuff in your like late 20s. I'm like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've just been in Canada, like, going farthest is like Toronto to Montreal. And so I ended up taking the job and moving. And it was also perfect because I was only in Hong Kong 2 weeks every 2 months. So it, satisfied the moving back home, but I wasn't actually home.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. You struck the perfect balance. And what lessons did you learn from that time in your life, particularly around traveling the world? I feel like there's so much you learn about yourself during that time. What did you take from that?
I think the biggest thing I learned was just how different cultures do business. And I thought that was really invaluable to me. And as I, in my career and understanding, now it's really easy for me to think about starting a company in a different country because I understand the business culture and I've done it before. So that sort of really opened my eyes and everything just seemed a lot simpler. Also, I think it just like gave me a level of flexibility and adaptability. I mean, I moved between Toronto and Hong Kong a lot, a couple of times, and having to reestablish friendships and all your community as a kid is tough. But I had to constantly do that because I was like constantly on the road during those years. So that taught me that, which I think adds to my ability to learn very quickly and also be really comfortable in new environments and make friends.
Yeah, absolutely. From my understanding, it was also during this time that you were able to now build these global partnerships that would then be useful even for, Pretty Tasty and the future of Pretty Tasty. So it's just like a reminder of everything you do. There's always something you're able to take from it and to where we are today, which is very nice and comforting in a way. So walk me through, how did you get to All Saints?
Yeah, so L'Oreal came knocking on my door and they're like, "We want you." And they offered me a really fun position, which doesn't sound fun on paper, was their financial controller, but it was for Lancôme, which is 60% of their business, and it was for the region of Asia. And my role was actually equivalent to the brand director role, and anything sales and marketing. Actually, I was the final sort of sign off in Asia. So that really got me a taste of everything else in running a brand that was aspirational, all the marketing and sales behind it. We built the first sort of standalone luxury stores for some of our lines within Lancôme, how we positioned it, taking over ad space and out of home and really using that consumer perception that we were the top brand. And within that year, we overtook Estee Lauder.
I love your competitive spirit. I can
I
tell.
know. I'm like, this is the more I talk, I'm like, I didn't know it's so
No,
bad,
no.
but now I know I'm really competitive.
It very much resonates with me, so don't worry. I fully understand.
Well, you played sports. I played sports. I played field hockey. Obviously, my team was the champion for both Hong Kong and Toronto. So, I'm a forward. It is just the way I'm
That's
built, I
amazing. Did you
guess.
play on the national teams for both? How does
No,
that work? Oh,
I
okay, okay.
didn't. It was like a separate. Well, then I had to quit because my parents were like, "Your faces get smashed in." So that.
Okay, yeah. My parents didn't care if my face got smashed in. They were like, "Yep, keep going." I love that. Okay, so it seems like at L'Oreal was your first exposure, at least entrance into marketing, brand, seeing a whole new side of you, right?
Yes, and I loved it. So I went, to my boss. I was like, let's talk about a plan for me to transition more into the operating role or the brand side. And they were like, but you're so good at your job. Like, we can't let you leave. You have to stay in finance. And I'm like, that's not going to work for me. And I applied for business school. Like one of my old colleagues, she's like, you're too smart to be doing what you're doing. She's like, go apply to the top business schools. And she's like, if you don't get in, then you prove me wrong. She's like, what have you got to lose? And I was like, okay, fine. So I'm like, I'll humor you. I bought GMAT for Dummies, studied for a couple weeks after work, and took the GMAT, and I got into MIT.
Okay, quick question before we get to MIT. You mentioned you went to your boss. So it was coming from you. Was it very natural for you to do that? Was it scary to?
It
Because
was
in my
scary.
mind, I see it as this
really,
is you advocating for yourself, stepping
Yeah.
out of your zone. What's your advice for others to do that too? Because that's a hard thing to do.
I was probably sleep deprived. I was working so many hours there. But if you don't advocate for yourself, no one is going to. I mean, I still need to remind myself all the time. And I also feel like it was just bringing me back to what authentically lit me up and made me happy. And no matter how good you are at something, if you don't truly love it, it's always going to be hard. And if you find something that you naturally love and you happen to be good at, you should go for it. And what's the worst thing? They're going to say no. It would have been no anyway if you never asked.
Retweet. I love that. Yes, you're right. No, absolutely right. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's a certainty. Okay, so you end up getting into MIT. Did you have a goal and plan for this is what I want to get out of business school?
Yeah. So while I was at Philip Morris, I remember one ex-colleague had left and went to work for LVMH. And first time in my life, I felt jealousy. I was like, you're in Paris working with a design. I've always loved fashion. I was like, with designers that I love, I'm like, this is a job that I want. I really need to find a way to transition to retail. And what I wanted to do, I wasn't exactly sure. And that's what I really loved about MIT, because all the other schools are like, in your application essay, you have to tell us exactly what you're going to do with your degree afterwards, because otherwise you're not going to be successful, and we want you to be successful. And the team at MIT, they were like, well, it's our job to expose you to as many things as we can, so then you can pick the right path for yourself. And I just loved that. And so when I went in, I just took as many classes in different things as I could, and with the goal of going to go work for LVMH. So then I became co-president of the retail club, and I started pulling together internships for my classmates with the goal of landing one for myself. But then it was really cool because like I created one of the first internship programs for a whole bunch of brands like LVMH, Kering, which is Gucci Group, Carolina Herrera, Uniqlo Fast Company, All Saints, obviously, which is the internship that I ended up taking. And I actually ended up getting that one job from LVMH that was between us and the other school next to us. And I didn't take it. I went to All Saints.
Wow. And then did that mean you end up moving to Paris or England?
So actually, no, I ended up moving to London. So if I had gone to LVMH, I would have moved to Paris. And then I didn't take that job and they offered me New York. And All Saints gave me London or New York as an option. I ended up taking New York for the summer, but then they were crazy enough to give me North America to manage. And then after graduation, I moved to London.
Okay. So I want to take a moment. We haven't even gone into the point of, like, you were then actually recruited to go lead an egg freezing fertility, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's like completely different than
Yeah.
fashion and retail. I want to get into that of just like how you made that jump, why you made that jump. But before we do, I actually want to ask you, and this is for you to be far from humble, right? Like just lay it out for me. What do you think it is that is your superpower, if you will, that you think enables you to be in that position, or at least is to be sought after by these people, private equity firms, or whoever it may be, to say like, Scarlett, you are the person to lead this. Please join us. Because it seems like there's some type of commonality there. And I really want to know what you attribute it to.
I think early in my career, first of all, like, I guess I have to give it to, the CEO of All Saints at the time, William, who I'm still close with, who saw something in me. And he was like, I need to turn this company around because All Saints was coming out of bankruptcy and got bought by private equity. And when I had North America, it had failed miserably, launching 3 years ago. The brand wasn't resonating. And he was just like, what would you do with it? And trusted me to like try and fail. And through that, I was able to turn around the business that year that I was managing it. And so I became the turnaround queen in a way, because that's when I moved to London. He gave me the outlet business. He was like, it's 3% of our business now. He's at Burberry where he was. He's like, it's healthy for it to be 10%. He's like, I don't care. I give you 3 months, make that work. And I was like, okay. And then I did that, and then Europe. And so I think what showed up in my, resume was that I can go into situations that I have no experience in, but figure out what's wrong and fix it. And so Fresh Direct, where I went to afterwards, was kind of like that because Whole Foods had just been purchased by Amazon. Their customer, net promoter score was really low. And the CEO founder created this position of Chief Customer Experience Officer and was like, take this on and help me fix whatever it is so we can be competitive. And so that sort of translated next to the egg freezing, whereas the first in the country. It's well known to be a very horrible experience for women. And they're like, we think you're the person who's smart enough to figure it out and make it into something that not enjoyable, but bearable for women that will differentiate us in the market.
That's crazy. So thank you for that, by the way, because now we're able to kind of like build this pattern, if you will. Is it the challenge that excites you? Like, what excites you about each opportunity that you've been presented with?
I think it's the challenge. It's the opportunity to learn something new. I mean, my career has moved more towards doing things that I think will do good and, leave the world a better place. But definitely in All Saints, it was the challenge. And I still needed to prove to myself that I was good at what I did. And so every time something hard came around, I was like, if I can do this, then maybe I am a good business person or a good leader. And so it was a combination of both. And I also felt like I was doing a career reset when I moved into retail and out of finance. And so I wanted to catch up as quickly as I could. And I was taking on these really sort of tough roles where no one had succeeded in before, and someone who's much less experienced and much younger. And I thought, that was a way for me to sort of leap ahead.
Wow. Okay. We talked in the beginning of how you grew up in an environment where Sunday night dinners are talking a lot about your father's business, and that was all consuming. And if anything, you told yourself that's the last thing I want to do. So clearly something shifted. Clearly your mentality about it changed at some point about starting your own company. And if you were to pick one turning moment in your career, is there a moment of where that shifted for you?
I don't know if there was one particular moment. I mean, I feel like Fresh Start and All Saints were kind of like startups. So I was already going down that path and I was
Yeah.
like, I can do this. So, like, I think the challenge of knowing to run a business that already checked off in my head. Like, I know how to do this. I think I felt like every time I left a job or I didn't like something, it was more culture driven. And I think, the whole family thing in entrepreneur that's has to do with like culture as well. And so I really wanted to create a culture that people wanted to work at. And I realized that as a founder, that is in my control. And when my teams tell me that they're like, this is the best job that I've ever had. I never want to work anywhere else. Never want to work for anyone else. That sort of solidified that for me.
That's incredible. So it's almost become your metric of success in a way, of like enabling your employees to feel very fulfilled and love working there. Like, okay, so then I have to ask, what is your culture manifesto, if you will? What have you embodied and made sure is so prominent in the culture of your company?
I think everyone just needs to be a good person, be kind to each other, respectful. I think I talked a little bit about like, I think everyone wants to feel valued, but I think it's also that fulfillment of learning. And that's why I'm so big on letting people explore other areas beyond their area that they came in or studied, because that's the best way for, professional growth. And I totally respect it when people are like, I'm happy with the job that I have. I don't need to do more. I don't need to take on more. That is fine as well. I learned that while I was working at All Saints because I had a lot of people reporting to me and I just assumed everyone wanted to move up in the org. And some people are just like, no, I am perfectly happy where I am.
Do you have one question that you tend to ask potential employees to give you a sense of if they're a good person and if they're going to be respectful and kind and add value to the workplace, not from a hard skills perspective?
I don't actually have that. I think it's like really just getting to know that person. But I do always ask what their dream job would be. Like, don't, ignore what this job is, like what the description says, what gets you excited and, to work every day.
Like seeing their personal own fulfillment, passions, things like that. Okay. Okay, I want to talk about Pretty Tasty tea. Tell me when the idea came about, what gave you the conviction to be like, this is it? Tell me a little bit about that time.
Yeah, this is probably the easiest business that I've ever started. The idea behind it, I'm a huge believer in collagen. It's a big part of, I want to say like Chinese culture, food is medicine. My grandmother has been telling me since I can remember, like, that if I want to have good skin, we're kind of vain. That I have to, it's I have to take more collagen. And I looked at, my grandma's like 101 now. I looked at pictures of her when she's 90. She had no wrinkles. She has wrinkles now, but she's 100. She'll FaceTime me and she's like, why do I have wrinkles? I'm like, Grandma, like you're 100, like calm down. So, as an adult, obviously the easiest way was to have powdered collagen. I put it into my morning coffee. I realized it ruined my experience of my morning coffee. It didn't taste great. It was like kind of brothy. It was gritty. All my cups were just coated with like collagen powder. And so I'm like, there must be a better and more fun way to do it. And obviously seeing the trend of Asian beauty and K beauty coming, ingestible beauty has been in Asia for a really long time, seeing the trend of functional beverages and how a lot of the beverages out there, they have these ingredients, but no one understands what they do, how much of it they're supposed to take, and then somehow have these really funky flavors. So you just have to make so many decisions. I'm like, what if we made something so simple like iced tea? Also because iced tea is like the only drink that I like other than water. super straightforward with like flavors that everyone knows and just like a really simple value proposition of your daily amount of collagen, like 10 grams. And again, 10 grams of protein. And I loved Honest Tea, and Honest Tea got bought, then they got shut down, left a big gap in the market. So decided to try with Pretty Tasty. And I say it's the easiest because my investor behind Pretty Tasty is an investor who wanted to invest in my last company. He has other businesses in the beverage business. So he already has a team who knows beverage really, really well. And so we had been wanting to work together for a really long time. And they were like, let's just do this together. You can do all the fun stuff, and we have the team to do all the hard stuff in beverage. And that's how we did it. And I pitched it at an industry pitch contest and won Best New Beverage last year. And so it was really nice to know that the industry also agreed, and it's been doing really well.
Okay, I can go in so many different directions, but I want to know, in these early days, I've had a lot of amazing founders on She Leads where it's a similar value proposition from the perspective of building a CPG company, and the focus, like the non-negotiable, if you will, is around health, whether it's like these are all your daily vitamins in one bite or whatever it may be. And I've learned that the challenge often comes with taste and like actually being a good product that people want to drink or they want to eat. And so you mentioned collagen has naturally a very brothy, gritty texture and feel. Well, what did that look like for you? How did you go about it? What was that process to getting it?
My partners are amazing. They knew all the best flavor houses. We worked on it for almost 2 years. We use the most expensive collagen that's out there. And we really worked on the chemistry of it. So like it was equally suspended throughout the liquid. We use the most expensive stevia, so you can't, even people who hate stevia come by and try it and they're like, I like this. Yeah, so non-negotiable is definitely important. Because I was joking to my partners, I'm like, it's called Pretty Tasty. People need to drink it and say that it's pretty tasty. If they come back and they're going to nickname it Pretty Nasty if it doesn't taste good. And I'm going to be so mad. We can't launch it that way. So thankfully, it's really good.
On that note, by the way, how have you approached this whole new world of social media, right? Because like one person could go on TikTok and say, this is actually pretty nasty, right? And then it could change.
I hope I didn't
influence.
Start this trend with this podcast.
No, I don't think you did, because it's very good. I've tried it. It's very, very good. It's more than pretty tasty. But I want to know, has that almost informed your approach of go-to-market, of retail, direct-to-consumer? Like, how do you think about that?
I mean, social media is so important and it's a big focus for us. But the fear of someone not liking it, I mean, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like it, right? You can't change it just for that one person. There are so many more people that love it. Even influencer and content creators, they don't promote drinks and products that they don't like anymore. Like the whole thing of them being trusted by their followers is that they actually only talk about things that they like. And so even with people that I work with, I'm like, let me send you some of our product first before we talk about working together, because I need to know that you actually like it before I enter into a business relationship.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think it's shifted. I don't think it was always like that. I think there was this gap where we learned, okay, we can't trust this person.
And you can tell when they really like something or if they don't. And I'm lucky that they really like it, because a lot of the creators we work with post about us even whether or not we're paying them because they like it so much.
So tell me, what do you think is something that CPG founders miss, or at least like what is so important to know of building a consumer packaged good company?
I think there's so many products that come out every single day. I also, invest as an angel, and I also work with VC funds. I see so many new products that come out and I just look at it and I'm like, would you even use it yourself? Like, did you actually need this, or did you just think that there was a gap in the market? And there's a reason that there's a gap in the market. It's because we don't need this thing.
Interesting. I love that perspective. So it's almost like there's a gap in the market, but there's actually a reason why there's a gap. Like maybe it doesn't need to be filled. And it's been tried and failed, if you will.
Yeah. I got told about like a probiotic cleaner the other day. And I'm like, do you know what a probiotic is? Like, why is it going on a table? Like, what are we doing?
Okay, so I'm going to throw this at you. What would you tell someone who is interested in starting a company? It's scary. They don't know where to start, but it's also a very like sexy thing to do to start a company. Where would
That
you
is a
kind of
lie. We can talk about it later, but that
let's
is a
talk about it.
lie.
Let's talk about it. Okay, what is yeah. Let's hear like the reasons as to what is the least sexy part about starting a company. Like what would you say to someone to say like you better know this before you start?
It's going to be really hard. You're not going to make a lot of money. No matter how you fund it, you're probably going to make more money having a job.
You're so right. I feel like that is such a strong misconception. But yes, continue.
And you're going to be less stressed out because if it doesn't work out, you lost all this money, your investors' money, and there's constantly competing demands. You're not going to have the money to hire, the biggest team. You're going to have to do a lot of the stuff yourself. It's going to be 24/7. People are going to have no boundaries, investors, retailers, like everyone calling you all the time. So you just see what you see on social media, press coverage, all these founders doing fun things. I mean, I find it fun, but I've also worked in these big companies and I know it's not for me. But like, you need to have this level of risk compartmentalization. I'm like, all of us have something wrong with us because it is very risky and still we do it. And all of my friends who are like successful founders, we have this like thing where we're like, oh, we might have $0 in the bank, but maybe tomorrow we will. Like, you have to be okay with that. And a lot of people cannot live like that.
Totally. I call it delusion. I think it's
Yeah.
strong delusion where,
Yeah.
you have
Yes.
to believe in it because the likelihood is low. And
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Look at the statistics.
Exactly. Exactly. So, can you share a story in which, let's say a shit hit the fan moment where you're like, is this worth it? Should I be doing this? Should I just like, why am I killing myself doing this? Or, yeah.
There's so many. I think I also like repress those memories. But like, I think one of the scariest moments I had was in my last company, Sugar Break, that was supplements. It was really for blood sugar. So, it was launching in Target. That was like our launch, like the brand out of nowhere. It was a huge deal. Obviously, getting there on time was already a nightmare because everything that could go wrong went wrong. And the night before, I remember just sitting there and I like had to call my co-founder. I'm like, what if someone gets sick from this? What are we going to do? I put this out in the world. And he's like, but you know that our factory is amazing, gone through quality checks, everything is studied. But like, I was just like, but people can be allergic to anything. Like, anything could go wrong and it would be our fault. And that just like, I was so nauseous. I like could not sleep.
Yeah. It's scarier to me when I hear of founders who don't think like that in a way, and it's just like, let's build something to build, not thinking of the effect that it can have. But I think you're just showing us like it's a natural thing, right? And it's part of it. And it's just maintaining that. Okay, you mentioned the working 24/7. I want to know, how have you navigated, if you have experienced this, just the guilt of either not working all the time or burnout? Like, what is your advice for other founders dealing with that?
It's been a journey because I'm also the kind of person, and my team will tell you, I'd rather be the one not sleeping than have them not sleep. So I'm very strict with my team on them having work-life balance and forcing them to go offline. But I realize that I can only show up and be my best self when I'm well rested. I can only be creative when I have the space to think. And I also have to be really strict on what I get involved with. I've done this enough times. Like, I just want to be involved in everything because I know a lot of it, but I just have to trust that my team can make these decisions. And maybe it's not going to be the exact same decision that I make, but I have to be comfortable with that. Otherwise, well, first of all, that's not going to be fun for them if I veto everything, but also it's not the most effective use of my time.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, given just reflecting on your own career and even a little bit of talking about burnout and all of that, what is your advice for someone who is maybe in their late 20s and is having that type of, quarter life crisis, if you will, of what should I do and really like getting close to being stuck in that box like we talked about? How should they navigate it? What do you recommend?
I think you need to sit down and think about what lights you up. Like, what do you like about your work? It's not like I like a spreadsheet. Like, what is it and what don't you like? And then just look at the things that you like and what options there are out there. I think talk to as many people as you can. And I think, business school was so eye opening for me because I think Canada is quite a conservative culture. All my friends, I would say from college, are probably still in the same job or similar jobs than what they had when we graduated. And we don't really think outside of the box. I think being exposed to more people who have had interesting careers or, non-traditional allows you to realize that you can really make a job out of anything that you want.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to spin it back to you, and I have just a few more questions for you. But one, what gives you fulfillment? What lights you up the most when you think of your day to day?
I love creative stuff, and I'm really grateful that now I'm in a place in my career where I can be more creative, like thinking about like what are other products we could do, what sort of fun campaigns, what kind of activations, partnerships like that gets me really excited. Also, I think being on podcasts and panels, I really love it more because then I get to meet women in real life who come up to me and tell me that they started a company, they left their job, they did something because they heard me speak and it made them realize it was possible. And representation matters. We know that how little money in venture goes to female founders and then female founders of color. And definitely, I always get made fun of for being like the first founder who was an accountant. Like this fulfills me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so with you. And it's also, that's even the reason why I started this podcast, right? Which is literally just the power of exposure and getting that out there and seeing even an element of yourself in who's talking. And then you kind of get that confidence. I love that. Okay, Scarlett, I have two more questions for you. One is, if you had the power to assign a book to everyone on earth to read and understand, which book would you choose?
I need to confess, I'm not a business book reader. But I will say that I guess part of my, journey, I was also the CEO to Deepak Chopra's wellness businesses. And I will say his Seven Spiritual Laws is an amazing and very quick read because there are some things that are in there that I think are very helpful. The law of detachment is what I'm really working on. And, if you want to be successful, you can't be so attached to outcomes. And, being an A-type personality, the outcome is what drives me. And I've been working actively to not be on that. And I heard the founder of Waterloo and so many of the other brands, Clayton Christopher, he was saying how just leave everything on the field and don't worry about the outcome. And that's really what I'm trying to be.
Yeah, I love that. Ooh, I could ask a few more questions, but I want to leave it at that too. I want to know, do you manifest? Is there how does that look like for you?
I do a lot of journaling. So I do a gratitude journal morning and night. I manifest picturing how a fulfilling life would feel like. So that's like sort of like the detachment, right? Like I think I used to be like, I would be happy if I had this, 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 But I think now I've shifted to be really fulfilled in that life or in that job. How does it feel like for me inside? And that's what I'm working towards.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that makes sense. It's almost detaching yourself from the physical outcome, whether it's number of users, revenue, all of that, and more so the like, what do I want to feel inside?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty powerful. I love that. Okay, Scarlett, the last thing I ask everyone, which I think you've already answered and you could totally be like, yep, this is it, is what craft are you spending a lifetime honing?
Being a better person,
And what does that mean to you?
showing up for people around me, in the way that they need me to, but also showing up for myself, which I think is the harder part for me, so that I can be that person for other people.
I think it's so important. And sometimes people forget that, they forget the just true fundamentals of life. It's just being a good person. Anyway, okay, Scarlett, it has been such a pleasure. This has been such a fun conversation. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you. So fun for me as well.